let us execute an immediate, sweeping analytical vector shift away from the rain-drenched Louisiana bayou country, police procedurals, and the intense therapeutic boundary friction of romantic suspense, and plunge straight into the high-octane, calculation-heavy tracking grids of bustling airport terminals, weaponized identity-swapping matrices, and the fiercely protective, dangerously fragile world of two endangered female assets running a raw tactical survival loop. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored, glass-walled corridors of JFK International, exploring the lethal analytical parameters of an intense survival-fueled deception matrix with The Last Flight, the exceptional, pulse-pounding structural masterpiece engineered by the absolute undisputed sovereign of dual-narrative suspense, high-stakes female escape logistics, and high-velocity systemic paranoia, Julie Clark. This high-stakes narrative tracking sequence delivers an exceptional look at an operational crossroads where a fierce, underestimated political spouse asset running an unyielding safety loop, a calculating, completely cornered academic burnout asset running a parallel evasion routine, and an absolute defense of an individual's final personal sovereignty metrics collide at terminal velocity. Let us map the strategic narrative grid. If you are an elite enthusiast of high-octane, slow-burn psychological thrillers where an endangered, hyper-observant female protagonist must navigate an absolute maze of rigged high-society surveillance, corrupt political dynasty blockades, and a deadly ring of active investigative frame-ups while running a blind survival loop inside a completely compromised domestic ecosystem, where an analytical mind uses deep behavioral profiling, calculated itinerary switches, and absolute emotional stamina to outmaneuver an invisible predatory executioner asset, and where the author utilizes an incandescent two desperate women meet by chance at an airport bar and swap plane tickets only for one of the flights to crash, leaving the survivor trapped in the other's dangerous shadow diagnostic routine to test our hero's structural limits, this book is engineered to lock you in. Clark completely dominates the high-precision identity theft meets suffocating political dynasty paranoia dynamic, capturing the heart-racing intellectual momentum, suffocating domestic paranoia, and heavy deductive depth popularized by genre arcs like Gillian Flynn, Lucy Foley, B.A. Paris, and Liv Constantine, while treating realistic aviation disaster forensic logistics, complex dual perspective alignment arcs, and protective high-density psychological extraction grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on the highly volatile, calculation-heavy baseline of our central legendary powerhouse assets, operating under a severe, calculation-heavy handicap of intense domestic isolation, high-stakes political surveillance, and a hyper-visible targeting canvas across the metropolitan elite ecosystem. Behind Claire Cook's rigorous high-society philanthropic footprints and tense personal scheduling logs lies an intricate matrix of hidden factional agencies, deeply buried marital hostility, and sharp, high-stakes tactical maneuvers. Her collective defense mechanisms are locked down tight behind a lifetime of trying to secure her physical independence and surviving complex psychological ambushes. Her entire analytical focus strictly consumed by monitoring sudden threat vectors from an aggressive political shadow handler, Rory Cook, the charismatic, fiercely ambitious husband whose public perfection masks a brutal, controlling private monster. Simultaneously, we track Eva James, an academic asset operating under her own terminal tier of severe drug syndicate entanglement, whose entire counter-surveillance apparatus is on the verge of total structural collapse. The spark ignites when an unexpected high-frequency structural anomaly breaches their active scanning perimeter. A sudden change in Rory's campaign schedule threatens to entirely wipe out Claire's meticulous months-long extraction plan to Puerto Rico, forcing her into a desperate real-time recalculation at JFK Airport. A chance high-frequency cross-reference occurs at a terminal bar, where she intersects with Eva, who is equally desperate to permanently delete her own historical data bench trail. In a breathtaking, calculation-heavy tactical maneuver, they swap boarding passes, phones, and identities. The official diagnostic metrics of the global tracking centers flash white-hot when Eva's flight to Puerto Rico crashes into the ocean, instantly altering Claire's historical balance of power by rendering her legally dead to the world. The standard boundaries of routine marital decorum and peaceful corporate compliance protocols crumble, and our central protagonists run completely out of standard diplomatic escape vectors. Claire is thrust directly into an active, invisible war behind the closed doors of Eva's hidden Berkeley apartment, where she must parse the terrifying realization that running an unmonitored survival loop inside a dead woman's identity means inheriting a completely separate lethal ring of active criminal threat vectors. The tactical parameters instantly explode as their historical and survival warfare turns completely active, transforming the isolated suburban townhouses, dark academic laboratories, and fortified transit hubs into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone. Our protective, hyper-vigilant heroine is forced to deploy her massive intuitive tradecraft, elite behavioral mapping skills, and raw emotional stamina to preserve her focus before her late husband's relentless political cleanup network and Eva's vengeful past associates permanently delete her boundaries. The threat vector remains purposeful and resolute, determined to deploy deep institutional leverage, continuous high-tech tracking devices, and persistent media dominance to break her resolve, only to realize her hardened defensive protocols and shifting counter-narratives match their raw tactical speed step for step. Every midnight forensic archival excavation of hidden financial ledgers, every silent choice to stand off against an encroaching adversary behind standard architectural barriers, and every intense moment of channeling raw, unyielding survival mechanics chips away at her reliance on original peaceful rules. What follows is an exceptional, high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit.
We watch the political elite's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as Julie Clark reveals that the true victory requires more than just surviving an initial transport switch or managing a difficult identity disclosure. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of individual dignity, personal truth, and systemic survival against a cold, calculating machine of domestic manipulation and narcissistic supremacy. While our central characters smooth over each other's psychological edge and supply spots with devastating analytical force, creating a fiercely protective, absolute web of dark possessive loyalty around their shared horizon, a brutal series of close-quarters tactical confrontations and high-stakes evidentiary breakthroughs shifts the clock into its terminal phase, proving that historical emotional hazards have tracked them to their final outpost. To survive the impending lock-grid trap and permanently secure her sanctuary, our resilient heroine must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of her final boundary lines. It is a psychological thriller, identity theft noir, political suspense drama, high-velocity contemporary puzzle masterpiece that treats deep relational logistics and intense structural friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We are talking about that high-frequency, one-swapped boarding pass triggers a fatal biotech blackmail showdown energy, where a sudden pause during an active franchise tactical briefing, an unexpected shift in an adversary's protective physical posture during a high-stakes standoff confrontation, or a heavy, possessive realization that an elite intelligence operative has completely mapped your personal coordinates carries massive structural weight. Clark writes with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blent voice, perfectly capturing the heavy, oppressive atmosphere of a private executive vault before a major corporate takeover, and the distinct, subtle scent of polished mahogany, aviation fuel, high-end electronics, cold metallic rain, dynamic adrenaline, spilled copper, and pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this contemporary standalone marvel into elite territory is the author's unmatched ability to balance complex, high-stakes relationship dynamics and genuine protective power tradecraft alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep emotional hooks. Our protagonists don't rely on unbelievable superficial Hollywood superhero action tropes. Their immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic modern corporate and high society underworld they dominate step for step, making their choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking tactical breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total, hard-earned advancement to their horizon. The Last Flight is the definitive pro-level upgrade your high-stakes contemporary thriller and intense asset suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unputdownable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating institutional monster, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, trust your elite survival training, and fight like hell alongside your network to rewrite the data. So secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the fleet.